Like I showed you yesterday, this is my double exposure composition, and I want to show you how I got to this point so that you can hopefully make good selection of a photograph or a couple of photographs and put them together in a really meaningful way. Nothing here is new to you. It just, again, additional practice for the skills that you've already tried. Like I had you do yesterday, I located a couple of photos that I think are going to work well for this assignment. And the thing that I think works well about them is that if you open them up, you'll notice that both of these photos have strong values. She's got nice strong values in her eyes. She's got darks in her hair. She's evenly lit. And the same thing is true with the gazebo photo. It's got strong lights and darks. And I've got these dark areas over here. And why that's important is because what we're going to end up doing, we're going to turn this thing black and white. And on the girl photo, the area that is going to be dark is going to end up being translated into the double exposed image. So I've opened her up in her own window, and the first thing I'm going to do is bring the other photograph into this same window, and I'm going to stretch it and make it fairly large. And in some of the examples you saw on the internet, they turned things sideways or they turned it upside down. It's entirely up to how you want to use this. I think this works pretty nicely. I originally thought I liked the idea of the cranium of the skull and that top part of the gazebo, but after I put it on there, I didn't like the way it looked. So I've enlarged it. I'm going to hit enter, and now this top layer, I can get it to look double exposed by changing the blending mode right here where it says normal. I can change it to lighten, and immediately it becomes see-through. And so anywhere that there's a dark, it shows me the light of the photograph below, and anywhere that there is a light, it essentially reverses out to the dark part of the figure. So it'd be helpful if I had a photograph to start with that didn't have a background, but mine unfortunately did have a background. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the eyeball of the overlaid image off so that I can make a selection of her. So I'm going to switch to the background to her, grab my selection tool that we've used before. I'm going to make a quick selection of her. The better your selection, the better your final product will be, but we do have a little bit of flexibility here. And so I've made a selection, and if you remember, if you make a mistake, you can hold the option button down with the selection tool and get rid of the mistake and go back and forth until you've made a good selection of your person. So I like that. That's pretty close. Not too bad. And I'm going to make a layer mask. Remember, the layer mask is the white rectangle with the black circle here, and the background goes away. And I need that background to be white. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. It's down here on the layers palette next to the trash can. And I'm going to drag that below the photograph. And I'm going to grab the paint bucket. And I'm going to turn the paint white. And paint, now I've got a white background. Now she's not, you can see all the flaws that I made in my selection. I'm not going to worry about that at this time. I can work with that. Okay, so now I need to make two folders. I'm going to make a folder, here's group 1, and I'm going to put the photograph of the girl in group 1 and close it for now. And I'm going to make another folder and put the photograph for the overlay in group 2. And I'm going to call this layer girl. I'm going to call this layer gazebo. The reason why we want to have folders is because if I were to put out an adjustment layer right now, at the top of this list, it would affect everything below. So if I put it above a gazebo, it would affect gazebo and girl and background. I just wanted the adjustment layers I'm going to do right now to affect girl. So I'm going to click on folder labeled girl and click on the adjustment layers. That's the black and white circle on your palette. I'm going to come down. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to take her color profile away by hitting black and white. So I'm going to turn her black and white. And then I'm going to slide the various color sliders to intensify the darks a little bit, turn up some of the grays, maybe try to make her shirt a little bit darker. I don't want to overexpose it. We get her really exposed. She looks like she's sunburned. So we want to make sure that she's got full range of values. And the next thing I'm going to do to increase that contrast is I'm going to put an exposure layer there as well. So exposure, and I'm going to turn the brightness up, exposure up, so she's nice and bright. And I'm going to turn the offset down just a little bit. So now I have a full range of values from white to black, and I can always come back in my black and white layer and mess with that further as well. But I want to have a nice range of value. Her eyes are glowing right now. I don't want them to be white like that. From white to black in the girl layer. And then I'm going to close the girl layer, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn the gazebo back on, and I'm going to do the same thing. I've got a choice at this point. Any place that's dark, you'll see is showing the color of the gazebo. So that's kind of cool. I could play with color if I didn't want to go black and white. It's a little bit easier sometimes to just deal with black and white. So I think I'm going to go ahead and click on gazebo, the folder labeled gazebo. Go down, put a black and white layer on it. Slide it sliders left and right so I get a nice value range. So see how down on the shirt when I slide the yellow, the grass starts to disappear down there? Or I can make it up here. Here's where you're trying to control which parts of the photograph. So now the sky gets really dark up in there in her face. I kind of like that. More dark up in her face. I'm looking at all of the values in the gazebo and trying to get a nice contrast with the gazebo as well. And I'm also going to put an exposure layer on it as well. Slide the exposure right, get nice bright whites. It's only affecting the stuff in the gazebo. Turn this down a little bit. I kind of like that there. Now, yes, it is double exposed right now. No, it's not a very interesting composition. What I did the next point was I put layer masks on the photos. So I clicked on, here's my gazebo photo in the gazebo folder. I made a layer mask on it. And now I pick up a paintbrush, just like we did in the other lessons, and I'm going to start getting rid of the hard edges of the photo, definitely. And I'm going to start moving this around. I liked it when it was coming, when the columns were kind of lining up with her hair. I don't like the way I've gotten the lighting on this one. I like the other one better. But I'm going to start getting rid of, with the layer mask, some of the gazebo folder, particularly where the edges are really hard. And maybe I want her mouth to show. And maybe I'm going to downsize the brush, and I want the hair right here to show more. But I like the way the path, the shadows are falling through the shirt. But I'm going to pull some of this out. Soften that edge. So you can see I'm painting all around. And if it's coming out too fast, I can turn the opacity down, give myself more control, and turn the flow down. You don't want it to be 100% because that's going to get rid of everything all at once. And remember, you can always, I'm not really satisfied with the way the lighting is gone. I can always go back into these things and readjust them later. I think that's better. I think that's all too harsh. And darken things up. So the other thing that I don't like is I've got this hard edge around the girl. I'm going to bring this eye out. I like that eye. So you're actually creating a painting here. It's a lot of feel. I feel like this looks better than that. I feel like doing this. The other thing, I don't like the hard edge on the girl. So I'm going to go to the girl photo. We've already put a layer mask on her before when we cut her out. And now I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to soften her edge up. So a little bit at a time, I'm going to nibble away at her edge. And maybe I like some of these hairs. I want to see some of these hairs. So I'll switch this to white. And I'll bring these hairs out. I know there are hairs there. I want those hairs to be more evident. So you can see I've added some little hairs out here. I could go and refine the edge a little bit more. I'm not going to take the time to do that. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put what's called a gradient map on this thing to just tone it a little bit, give it a little bit of color. So I go back to my black and white circle adjustment layer and I click on gradient map. It's down here at the bottom. And I'm going to come up here, click on the bar, gives me choices. And now I'm going to click one of these choices. So it just tones. I like to keep it nice and subtle. You can, I wouldn't go way out here garish or anything like that, but you know, it's your artwork. I'm gonna keep it in here. The other thing I can do too is if I didn't want it to affect the gazebo, if I wanted the gazebo to be color, full color, all I would have to do is drag my gazebo folder above the gradient map, go inside the gazebo and turn the black and white layer off. So now I've got this nice subtle duotone, halftone girl and a full color photo. Again, a lot of this is art. This is choices. This is being a painter or an artist. So you get to kind of decide how your finished product looks. I kind of prefer it to look like that. I think I did a much better job with this. The tones are much softer. I like the placement of the gazebo better, and I liked what I did with the pulling out of the gazebo and adding the gradient map. So give yours a try. Experiment with several. If you don't like the first one, you can throw it away and do another one.